Okay, now we're ready. So we are here in Dallas with wynnejean. She's going to be braiding my hair. We're just going to be chopping it up because y'all know how you talk to your hair braider. So we were chatting a little bit previously and we started talking about tattoos and my tattoos. So yes, so let me tell you about my tattoos. So I first wanted to so my mother has a lot of tattoos. And I first wanted to get tatted around the age of 13, and my mother said no. Oh yeah, of course. Here come the fucking lawnmower man. But oh well, we'll see. We have our mics on, so we should still be fine. But when I was like 13, I wanted to get tattooed. My mother has a lot of tattoos. My mother, in like the 90s, late 90s, my mother shaved her head and got all these tattoos, and she got like her hands tatted up, everything. And I wanted tattoos too, but my mother said no. She said I was too young. I was only 13. I couldn't get any tattoos. And then around the age of like 15 or 16, my mother let me get one tattoo. I have like a butterfly on my back shoulder, but it was like so tiny. It was like this big, and I wanted some more, so I actually found this place. This was in DC. I found this place that I just started hanging around there, and they started letting me get tattooed there, even though I was clearly underage. So, like this tattoo on the back of my neck, I got there when I was underage. I have like a crescent moon and a star on my shoulder that I got there when I was underage. I have a tattoo like on my hip bone that I got when I was underage. Like, I have so many tattoos that I got there when I was underage. This tattoo right here, this fairy, this is my first tattoo that I got when I turned 18. I got this tattoo here. So this was like my first legal
tattoo, yeah.
Yeah, my first legal tattoo. And a lot of these, this one, a sense of urgency, this one was a stick and poke. This one was a stick and poke. And I have black power right here. That one was a stick and poke. So then I just had a lot of people that was like trying to learn how to tattoo. Yeah, and I was like, whatever, you can like learn on me, I don't care. And it's funny because I feel like, I don't know, I kind of feel like there's a little bit of revisionist history with tattoos, because I felt like when I was growing up, like a lot of Black Americans have tattoos or like got tatted, and in like the early 2000s, all that, it was like rock star lifestyle and skater shit. And it's funny because I feel like a lot of people try to act like, oh, having like wild color hair and tats and piercings is like a white people thing or like a punk rock thing, whatever. And not to say that it's not, but I also feel like having wild color hair and tattoos and piercings is also something that Black Americans do.
You remember 27 Pieces? Like, they had, like, the different color ones. Like, they had, like, pink, blue, different colors. Like, back in the day, I remember it was really popular. Down here, too. Like,
oh, yeah.
The different color hair and all of that. I got my first stick and poke tattoo done in Colombia a couple weeks ago. I don't know how you got a whole sentence.
You thought it hurt?
I got it on my finger. I don't know if that added to it, but yes.
Oh, yeah. My finger tattoos hurt really bad. These ones, they hurt really, 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 really bad. Like,
and I have tattoos on my ribs, but the finger, for some reason, it did something. It hit different.
I feel like the stick and poke tattoos actually hurt, for me personally, less. Because the machine gun ones, it's like, it's like this vibration. Yeah, like the pressure and the vibration on your bones. Like, getting these tattoos on my fingers hurt so bad. These were probably my most painful tattoos. Like, especially, put this here, especially this one, this very last one, because she was hitting me right here. I don't know if you could tell, but
that
she
knuckle?
was hitting me right here on my knuckle.
It's like an extra funny bone.
Yes, and it was like, I was like, she was like, it's okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. It's the last one. We're almost there. I was like, oh God, it hurts so bad. Like, and by the time I got these done, I had already gotten this one done, and this one hurt a lot also. I got this one in DC, and I had the whole thing done in one sitting. The dude was like, oh, do you want me to just do the outline and then you can come back and do the color later? And I was like, no, I want to get it all over with, because you see people all the time that they have like half finished tattoos, and then they be like, oh yeah, I was supposed to finish and I just never went back.
I was just about to say that. I feel like most people who do that never
go back. Yeah, or like or your money gets funny, you can't go back and finish it or whatever. So I was like, nah, just do the same thing. Do the whole thing.
You like low-key scared to go back.
Yes, this one hurt really bad. he did the outline first, but it hurt so bad that I was like, my skin was literally jumping. Like, I was involuntarily jumping after like a couple hours. So he was like, okay, let's take a break. You could walk around. He like wrapped me up in saran wrap. And then I just like walked around. I did a couple walks around the block, and then I went back in. He was like, now we're going to finish. And like, my leg literally went numb. Like, by the end, I couldn't feel anything. But it's funny because like, when I was growing up, I felt like tattoos were so normal. But at the same time, it's weird. I don't know, it's weird how
they were like normal at home, but like once you went out, like the perception from other people made it like different.
Exactly.
Or other.
Yes, exactly. Like, I had people ask me like, oh, you know, was I a troublemaker, or was I a bad kid, or did I run away from home, all this stuff. And I was like, I mean, I was wilding out in my own way. I was like partying a lot. I started partying really young, but like, I got along with my mom. I was like a straight A student, all this stuff. So it's really interesting how just because you have tattoos or piercings, or, you know, like, especially in the early 2000s, I had fire engine red hair. I had an orange streak, like Rogue. Of course, I had to get the Nicki Minaj, the Chinese bang
with
at
the
one
pink
point.
Bottom?
Yes,
Come
like
on.
I had the bang, I had the pink, I had the orange, nose pierced, tongue pierced, piercings all. I had snake bites, piercings all in my face. Like, I definitely had a whole emo goth. I'm still emo and goth. Like, I still goth girl. I'm a real hot topic. Like, it's really true. But it's weird how people like put that on you, and especially like, because I do feel like especially like in the Black American community, like tattoos and piercings and colorful hair to me was like not nothing. It was so weird to me when people try to like associate that. Not that I have anything against punk rock, because I love punk rock. Like, Yellow Card, we could talk about it. But it's weird to me how people try to associate that with like white people. Like, oh, that's white people shit. And I'm like, that's not white people shit. Like,
there's very few things I would deem white people shit.
What would you deem white people shit? They try to say everything is white people shit. What is white people shit? I mean, slavery, I guess. Racism? Potatoes?
I'm trying to think, like, when I think white people, I think like fucking potatoes, like
potato salad with raisins?
Yes.
White
apples
people shit.
And shit. Yeah.
Like, it's really weird to me how people try to put shit on black people, and especially Black Americans, and be like, that's white people shit. Like, no, the fuck it's not. And I just feel like, especially hood, a lot of hood culture and a lot of Southern culture as well, seems like it overlaps with a lot of shit that people end up calling, oh, that's for white people. Like, no, it's not. It's really not. One of my favorite songs that I loved growing up was like Party Like a Rock Star. I love that song. I love that video. And I love that whole sort of punk rock overlap with hip hop. Like, I thought that shit was super cool. I kind of wish it would come back.
The colorful pants.
Yes, everything.
I had pants.
The colorful pants, the leather pants, like the tattoos, like Lil Wayne being on his rocker shit made so much sense to me. And it was like, even when he was on his skater shit, his rocker shit, Kid Cudi on his rocker shit. Now we have everybody talking about Rockstar Life, this and that. Y'all better give Jim Jones his flowers for that Rockstar Life, Vampire Life. Y'all better give Dipset they flowers for that shit. Like,
Dipset was a thing.
So it's just interesting to me now to see some of the perception of how some of these things kind of change, and, you know, now kind of the revisionist history of people try to act like, because I even now see people talking about some of the Gen Z, like some of the kids and the way that they dress and the stuff that they do, talk about, oh, in the 90s and in the early 2000s.
People remember what they want to remember.
We wasn't doing that. Like, we wasn't doing that in hip hop. Like, are you sure about that? Like, are you sure about that? Like, Snoop Dogg with his perm and his Shirley Temple curls was a thing. Like, people being into the punk rock shit was a thing. Like, Tupac had a nose ring. Like,
that's a big thing, especially now, because I feel like it's associated with femininity. But I thought like it was like some hard ass shit to do back then. Like,
it was. I don't know. It's really weird to me how people. It's really revisionist history. Like, I think that we have a lot of people. Speaking of Twitter, because we were talking about Twitter and social media, I also feel like we have a lot of people that are not familiar with Black American culture, that now they sit on the internet and they talk about Black American culture, or they even get paid to talk about Black American culture, or to write think pieces about Black American culture, or, you know, they just like putting their 2 cents out there. And I'm just like, that's not how it was. Like, that's not how it was back then, as somebody that can remember the 2010s and even the early 2000s to up to a certain point. Like, that's not how it was. So I don't know. The internet is like a weird place with a revisionist history. And now in 2021, I feel like we're also getting to the point where the early 2000s are kind of like making a comeback. And so it's interesting to sort of watch and be like,
it's like what they assume it was like. It's not like
yes,
exactly what it was.
Yes. And being like, that's not how it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not how it was. We were just talking in Discord about Gossip Girl. Did you ever watch Gossip Girl?
Yes.
The original? Are you going to watch the reboot?
Yeah. Wait, it's a reboot? I'm going to try it.
I'm tired of nostalgia projects and reboots.
Really?
Yes. I am not a fan. I feel like the nostalgia projects and the reboots are getting out of control.
It feels lazy sometimes.
Yes.
If it's not done right. Like,
yes.
You have to like do it and then make it better. If it's the same or less, I feel like it's kind of like for what? Because we had the original one.
What is a reboot or a nostalgia project that you've liked?
Bad Boys 3.
Oh, I didn't see.
That shit was fire.
Okay, I didn't see Bad Boys 3, so I can't give my opinion on that. You gotta give me another one.
That's the only one. That's the only one.
That's the only one?
That's the
okay.
only one.
Okay, I didn't see that. I know a lot of people did say that it was good.
It was good. That's the only one. Everything else,
So I'm gonna have to check that one out. But I feel like right now, everything is so lazy. Like, I don't want to say that it bothers me, but it's weird to me that instead of people being themselves, it's almost like they're dressing up like other people.
Like a cosplay.
Or
yes. Like seeing like a void, and rather than like being something new or being something different, they kind of just like following like a recipe almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it bothers me. Like, it bothers me that I'm tired of everything being a homage of a homage of a homage of a reboot of a remake, you know? Like, I don't know. Like,
I would love to see
like,
her
what
do
is
something.
Gen Z culture?
Asian.
Asian?
Yes. Like, I feel like it's very anime.
Culture. I mean, like, what would you say is Black American Gen Z
culture?
culture? Yeah. So you would say it's like Asian inspired.
Yes. Because you know how I feel like every millennial went through like a very punk rock, like some type of like Caucasian-y phase. I feel like for them it's more like Asian. Like they're very into like anime, very like, I don't know, Asian candies, all of that stuff.
The K-pop shit.
K-pop. Like my little sister is obsessed. Like I don't know anything
why
about it.
I'm definitely too old for the K-pop thing, because I just can't. Even though I know there's millennial, like, not to shade any millennials that's into K-pop, but I just can't. Like, the K-pop shit makes me feel uncomfortable, honestly. Like,
it's an appropriation of an appropriation.
Yes!
So it's just like, what?
It's like layers of appropriation. Yes. Like, I just don't. It's weird to me. I don't understand why people get so into it, and I feel like it's really. So I feel like a lot of like Gen Z has this mindset of like globalization and like melting pot culture of just like everything belongs to everybody and anybody can do anything, which in theory
is beautiful.
Right.
In practice, it's a little problematic.
In practice, is very much problematic. And I also feel like for Black Americans, we're still not getting anything out of it. Like, it's not an even exchange. Like, you have K-pop, even though I know that the K-pop shit is hella weird and a lot of them are like locked in bad deals and bad contracts. They can't even take a break.
Very early 2000s.
24/7, yeah. But it's just like, it's not an even exchange, which is why even now we see these like TikTok kids that's going on strike, because it's like, oh, everybody's sharing everything and we're sharing culture, but it's only certain people that's making money. It's only certain people that's able to make careers. It's only certain people that's able to get ahead. And even though so much of the foundation of everything that we're seeing came from Black Americans, the Black Americans still, even in 2020, still aren't able to use the platforms the same way as other people to get put on or to make careers or to make money.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also something that is kind of a difference between now and like 2010s, early 2000s, because like I said this in my one of my last live streams where I was talking about TikTok. I was like, you know, if you wanted Fatima Robinson choreo, you had to hire Fatima Robinson and you had to pay her. But now you could just go look at the little TikTokers and you can just pick up their little dance, do it yourself, and if you're white or if you're Asian or something like that, you will blow up and nobody will even know who the original person even was. Which is why now you see
there's no citing.
Yeah, there's no citing, like there's no citation. And it's hard, like it's really difficult to see the kids not getting credited for their work. Even though Black Americans have never been credited for our work and everything is always stolen from us. But I do feel like, I feel a little old, like a little get off my lawn saying it. But I do feel like the internet has just like really accelerated this process of like theft.
Yeah.
So, and I know you're on Instagram and you kind of like make money. I don't know if you consider yourself to be like an influencer.
I just hate the way that sounds.
It does sound shitty. I hate when people call me that too.
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, but I would say so, yeah.
So how did you sort of get into, I guess, like social media and kind of like finding a niche for yourself to create? And I don't know if you consider this to be like your career or if you know, but like how did you get into that and sort of find your own way and lane and find a way to monetize that?
I've always been into like doing my own hair, so I feel like it just kind of like happened. I started off making fashion videos because I went to fashion design school, and then my hair videos, what were people like were gravitating to, and a lot of people would tell me how I helped them like save money by doing their own hair because it's really not hard. I feel like some people just aren't into doing it, or they think it takes more time than it does.
Me. Because I just can't. I just be like, scissors.
Yeah.
Can't.
But when I first started, I wasn't doing it for like the sake of having a career. I was a hairstylist already, and I was just sharing like what I knew. And after a while, it did become a bit. It became like a one-sided relationship because I wasn't getting paid by the brands. I was posting the hair, like wasn't making any money, and then it takes a lot of time, like to make those videos, a lot of effort, editing, and everything like that. So it took me a while to like learn how to advocate for myself in that way to say like I don't want free hair. I did not ask for the hair. Like you need to pay me. Like. But once I did, I feel like it shifted everything. Like I don't take like individual clients as much, and I'm able to like focus more on my content. So I do think of it more as a career now, but especially when I first started, it wasn't like a thing yet. So I didn't have like many people to look at and do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like the right way, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Like, cause you had asked me earlier, how did I get my idea for the Black Americans? Yeah. And so I started doing YouTube content in 2014. So this will be my 7th year on YouTube, which I can't believe. And originally I wasn't even monetized or anything because, like kind of similar to what you just said, like I was just making videos because I wanted to make, like I wanted to. And I felt like I had something to say. And I was the world's laziest YouTuber at first. I never edited shit. I was just like, whatever, like record a video on my phone, upload, whatever, I don't care. And before I was doing videos, I was writing essays on Tumblr about race and all that stuff. And a lot of my essays on Tumblr were kind of like going semi-viral. They was getting a lot of notes. And a lot of people asked me, did I ever consider doing video essays or doing videos on YouTube? And I was like, all right, whatever. So I started doing videos, and then like maybe a year in 2015, I think this was, one of my videos went super viral.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was on the Baltimore Uprising, and it made it to the front page of Reddit. And it was a lot. Like, so it made it to the front page of Reddit. This was how I heard of Reddit. I had never even heard of Reddit. I didn't even know what Reddit was at that time. Like waves and waves of people like coming on my page and like watching the video. Like the views shot up. It was like all these comments, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this? And then somebody told me like, oh, your video's on the front page of Reddit. And like, so that was when I was like, okay, so what's going on? Like maybe what I'm doing, maybe I need to not take it more serious, but
streamline it almost, like do it with intention.
Yes, I need to like put a little more intention and do it with intention. And so I started putting more intention into my work, and the platform just kept growing and growing and growing. And I have made videos talking about how white people are racist and like some serious shit is gonna happen. And then Donald Trump got elected, and then like Charlottesville happened. And all these people were coming to my page. It was almost like all these people were coming to my page because they wanted to, Black Americans, these Black Americans were coming to my page because they didn't feel represented. And like, I remember I did this video on microaggressions, and somebody left a comment, an older woman, because she had like put her age. I think she said she was like 45 or 50 or something. No shade to anybody that's 45 or 50. I'm not trying to call you older, anybody that age that watches my videos, but she had said something like, you know, like, oh, I'm 45, I'm 50, and I deal with this type of stuff all the time, but I never really knew that there was a word for that, or that there was language for that, like this phrase microaggressions, or, you know, this idea that I don't have to be fine with the white lady at my job asking to touch my hair and stuff like that. And because in that video I still had my locks in, and I gave an example of how one time I was in a public library and this white lady randomly just walked up to me and was like, oh my God, I love your hair. I always told myself that if I hit 35 and I wasn't married and I didn't have kids and I wasn't working in corporate, I would lock my hair. And I was
a lot of contingencies.
Yes, and I was just looking like, first of all, white lady, why are you talking to me? And second of all, like, you saying all this is not a compliment, because you're basically equating locks with not being married, not having kids, and not having a good job, which is weird as fuck. Like, this is insulting. And so I talked about that experience in my video, and this lady left a comment that was like, I've had so many experiences like this, and nobody ever wants to talk about it, and I love that you made this video talking about it. And even still to this day, people will leave comments that are like, I love that you're passionate. I love that you're cursing. I love that you're like not so detached like so many people.
That's what I was about to say. When I found you, it made me feel like it was okay to be upset about those
yes,
things. Like,
it's
not just that
upsetting.
you talk about them. People talk about them in a way where they kind of like, they kind of rationalize, not rationalize it, but like make sense of it and like try to articulate it in such a pleasant way. And it's like, it's not a pleasant fucking experience.
No.
Like, it's okay to be upset about those things.
Yes, it's okay to be upset about those things. Like, it's fucking upsetting.
Yeah.
And so when I would like do rant videos and shit where I'm literally screaming and cursing, and people would be like, yes, like, I love seeing somebody that actually shows how it really feels to be on the receiving end of so much stuff. And so after Donald Trump got elected, there was like an uptick in those type of comments of people being like, you know, and I felt this way too myself. Like, why is it that when I watch a panel on Trump getting elected,
it's fucking calm.
Yes, it's like people just sitting there calmly talking about it calmly and rationally. It's probably no black people even on the they have four white people, 2 white men and 2 white women talking about Trump and talking about racism, and everybody's talking about it so calm. Or if they have one black person on the panel,
palatable as fuck.
They're palatable as fuck. They're probably light skinned, or they're probably not even a black American. Like, there was a sense of detachment around the ways that people were talking about race and culture at that time. And so I wanted to do the Black Americans because I wanted to talk to real people, and I wanted to just sit down with real people and just have a real conversation, like how we really talk, like how we really talk when somebody's braiding your hair and you start talking, or how you're really talking when you're sitting across from somebody and you're having a drink and y'all say how y'all really feel about shit. And that was basically the inspiration for it. And I also felt like there's Black Americans all over the country. And a lot of the times, the main perspectives that we hear on quote unquote Black American issues are New York, LA, Atlanta now. Like, it's normally a city. It's normally like a coastal city, a metropolitan area, a urban, quote unquote, urban area with like very specific kinds of people. Like, you know, people that have been to college, or, you know, people that have all these degrees, people that have certain type of jobs. Like, and I didn't really want to talk to those people either. I wanted to like see, real people. Yeah. Like, let's go talk to the niggas in Dallas. Let's go talk to the niggas in Pittsburgh. Let's go. You know, and I was also really offended because I hated this narrative that they were running with of like, we need to go talk to the white Trump supporting voters and see why they did this and try to see things from their point of view. And I was like, no, we don't need to hear these fucking honky tonk redneck racist ass motherfuckers point of view. Like, how about we go to these red states and we talk to the Black Americans that live there that have to deal with this shit. And see what they think. Like, why do we always prioritize white people so much and like their view and what they're thinking? Like, fuck them and fuck what they're thinking. I want to know what the Black Americans are thinking. And so once I sort of got that idea, I just couldn't drop it, and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I planned the first season, and people find me like.
I was just about to say, I love like coming to like your Beezy Bakes and stuff, because I feel like it's like people like you find you, like, I don't know, like, not, it's like you build a community around yourself, and everybody like gets along and has like-minded ideas.
Yes, and that's really how it went. People found me. Like, people will find me on Instagram, they find me on YouTube, they find my email, they'd email me like, hey, if you want to come to my city, I live here, like, you can come to my city and talk to me. Like, one of the girls I had on season 1, Monica, shout out to Monica, hi Monica. She emailed me, like, she found me, and she was like, I live in Arizona, you know, there are black people that live here in Arizona, nobody ever comes here and talks to us, it is a red state, my whole family lives here, like, and, you know, I would love it if you came to talk to me about what it's like to be a black American here. So I just felt like a lot of black Americans felt like they weren't being heard, and still feel that way, even now in 2021, still feel that way, like, we're not being heard, like, we don't have a voice, like, we don't have representation, we don't have, you know, appropriate representation in media, we don't have appropriate representation on these panels, we don't have appropriate representation in the news or anything. And so I did sort of set out to kind of like build a community where people could talk and be themselves. Like, I thought of it as almost like a digital community center.
Yeah.
Where, like, people can come, they could talk, they could exchange ideas.
It's therapeutic in a way, too.
Yeah.
Because you can come, like, as you are and, like, say how you really feel. It doesn't have to be, like, as, like, well, like, put together. You can just, if you're upset, you can be fucking upset.
You can be upset.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, like, a real problem with people telling black Americans how to feel and how to express ourselves. And especially black American women.
Yeah.
Because if you're upset, if you're angry, if you curse, if you yell, if you scream, there's just a whole river of pejoratives that people are waiting to throw at you. You're bitter, you're angry, you're mad.
As if those things are like how you should not feel. If I am bitter, if I am angry, if I am mad, it's probably because you did this, and fucking this.
Exactly. Like, I'm angry.
Yeah.
I'm upset. It's upsetting. It's angering. And I think that people need to let black Americans, and especially black American women, have the space to talk about it and process it and deal with it. Like, this is a space for people to fucking get shit off their chest and say how they're feeling. You can't come here and then be like, oh, fuck you. Like, you just don't want to work hard, or you just don't this, you just don't that. Like, I don't allow that type of shit in my platform. And I think all that made a difference as well with people trusting me and feeling comfortable to sit down and have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I did go to college. Like, I was lucky enough that I was able to go to college. But
you didn't lose your ability to communicate with people who haven't. Like,
right.
I feel like it gets to a point where it kind of like becomes how people identify themselves and how they decide who they're going to interact with, rather than it being just something that you did, something that you can bring to the table, but still being able to communicate with like regular people. So I have the best conversations about race and shit like that with people like my cousins, like my aunts, like people who aren't like professionals or people who aren't like versed in these ideas. It's people who experience it.
Exactly.
Once you get to a certain level, not that you don't experience racism, because you do, it's just that it's in a different capacity. Like, but I feel like, I think having that mindset makes it seem as though those are the only people who have something important to say.
Exactly.
And that's not how I feel. Like,
I agree.
Or their idea of success is Caucasian. Like, or like, they're not going to be happy unless they feel like they have the same right to oppress people as white people. Because for some reason, I feel like a lot of people, like, they aspire to whiteness in like a way that they're willing to step on other black people to look good to a white person. Like, you're willing to like take advantage of people. You're willing to go the extra mile just to be aligned with somebody who does not like you and won't respect you for who you are. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yes. Do you ever have people that say anything to you about like your line of work, or like in that way, like, oh, you don't have a real job?
Yeah.
Like,
or they assume like, because I'm a hairstylist, that I'm not intelligent, or I don't have interest in other things, or they like align it, like, I don't know. Or even wigs, like, just because I don't wear natural styles all the time, they'll assume I feel a certain way about myself, or I want to be presented in a certain way. I get it all the time. People say anything in comments.
Yeah. What have they said to you? You do wear natural styles though.
I do for the most part, but I'll put a wig on if I fucking want to.
If you feel like it.
Yeah, like that's just, I feel like people want to put people in a box, and I feel like when you do anything that people don't see as aligned with who they thought that you are, then they have an issue with it. But I don't get much like hate comments when it comes to stuff like that. I just feel like the thing that I get the most is that people prefer me with different styles, or they assume like when I wear...
So like not the straight hair, something else?
Yeah, anything else. If I wear straight hair, it's a problem.
So what do they say when you wear straight hair? Just that you're like a self-hater?
Yeah. Like, oh, I like you better with locks, or I didn't think that you would wear, you know what I mean, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I don't get nothing too crazy, but even that's insulting, because I feel like I've been wearing weaves forever, and I feel like that's a Black American thing. Like, we've been wearing weaves forever, and white girls stole that shit from us. Like, yes. They do that all the time.
Right.
Just because they're white don't mean that their hair is naturally long. She has extensions too.
Listen, they better go watch Making the Band and see them wigs and them weaves and them pieces that Shannon and Aubrey and them was putting in.
Or like, America's Next Top Model.
Like,
that did not age well.
Tyra was the queen of sewing in a white bitch hair, and then watch them cry. I feel like Tyra's a little bit of a masochist. Like, yeah. And then watch them cry, and then be like, well, beauty is pain. Next Top Model didn't age well.
Did not age well.
I still love it.
It was my jam, but it did not age well.
It didn't. It was my problematic fave. Like, Tyra is my problematic fave, but I do feel like people don't want to give Tyra her flowers for what she accomplished in terms of sort of being a black beauty and being a Black American girl that, like, I can remember being younger and watching Life Size and loving that movie so much, and just like being in love with that movie, and just like, oh my gosh, like, look at this girl, like, she's tall. I mean, I knew she was Tyra Banks, obviously, but like, she's tall like me, and just
her and Lisa Leslie were those girls. Lisa Leslie, Venus and Serena, Tyra Banks. It was a point in time where they were everywhere. Posters all
and
down
Brandy.
Elementary school. Brandy.
I grew up on Brandy. I will not allow even though Brandy is another one that's kind of like finally getting her flowers, I will not allow no Brandy slander. Like, I remember a few years ago when Brandy came out with one of her newer albums. All her albums are bomb. Like, even people try to like shit on some of her newer ones, but I think Brandy's just ahead of her time. Yeah. I will never forget when some white male reviewer wrote in the New York Times, he tried to like trash fucking one of Brandy's albums, and Solange came for him on Twitter, and she was like, white people should not be allowed to write about R&B. This is so disrespectful to Brandy. Like, she is a legend. Like, she's the vocal Bible. If you don't know about Brandy and her deep cuts and all of her music and everything that she's represented for Black girls, like,
she was Cinderella.
She was fucking Cinderella.
Can we just talk about it?
With braids. Like, I can vividly remember watching that shit with my mom and just being like, just like stars in my eyes. Like, I love Brandy. Like, Brandy means a lot to me in ways that like people don't even understand. Like, I can remember watching, because I love horror, and I can remember watching I Still Know What You Did Last Summer.
Bro, that was a classic.
And Brandy is the best friend, and she lives. Like, she doesn't even get killed. Like, I still watch that shit around Halloween time. Like, people need Moesha. I've seen every episode. Like, it's funny to me how people don't. It's a lot of Black American girls that people don't want to give their flowers, and girls that paved the way for a lot of what we see right now in terms of the hair, in terms of the makeup, the clothes, the fashion. Brandy even had a Barbie doll. Like, and a lot of these women are still around. Yeah. Like, they're still around. Like, Brandy was very young.
I think that's what makes it hard. We're used to it being something far off that we can't like see, whereas like it's more difficult to say like, I appreciate you while you're here. But as soon as Brandy dies, it's gonna be memorials everywhere, and apparently everybody loved her but just didn't say it.
That sucks. That's sad to me. I don't know. Social media is really weird, because I feel like social media has made it so that people that were iconic and legendary in the 90s and the early 2000s, they're still around, and we're still able to see them, and we're still able to interact with them in a certain type of way that I think it's hard for people to sort of conceptualize that, even though we still have... I've been thinking a lot about access. Yeah. I feel like it's hard for people to conceptualize that even though we have access to them, like, they're still fucking legends. Yeah. Yes, like, they're fucking legends. Like, people think of our legends... Historically, we've thought of our legends as being, like, up here, like, in a way that we can't touch. Yeah. But now that all of our legends are on Instagram.
I was gonna say, I think it's social media that creates like this. We feel so close to them that we can't like praise them or something.
Right. Now people think they could sit in fucking Brandy comments and call her a hammerhead shark and shit, and it's fine. And it's like, no, that's not fine. I don't care that you can get on a fucking anonymous account and say that shit. Like, watch your fucking mouth. Like, you talking to Brandy. Like, the fuck? I don't like that. I don't like that stuff. So I did want to ask you, I heard you talking a little bit about your name and about your family. So if you don't mind telling me like a little bit about your family and like where you're from. So are you from Dallas?
I'm originally from Chicago.
Oh, so you're originally from Chicago. And you said that you have family in Kansas?
I'm originally my family moved from Arkansas to Chicago in like 1930 or something like that.
Okay, Great Migration.
Yes. I grew up, my father's family is from Georgia, my mother's family is from Arkansas, and I grew up in Chicago on the south side. So it's just like being able to appreciate like Southern people, but living in Chicago, like the Chicago accent is low key country as fuck.
It is.
So
there's like a Southern, I feel like there's, through Great Migration, obviously, there's sort of like a Southern Midwest connection.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people did leave the South and travel to Chicago, travel to Detroit. So how did you end up in Dallas?
I moved here for high school.
Oh, okay.
I moved here right before high school. It was crazy. I did not like it at first. It took me a while to like really get into it. But now, honestly, I feel like really connected to here. I have a lot of friends from here. And it had a lot to do with like how I grew, like a part of my growing up. Like, I don't think I would be the same person if I never like had the experience of living in the South.
Oh, what makes you say that? That's interesting.
School was different. In Chicago, everything is really segregated. So I only went to school with black people. I had never went to school with like anybody of another race. I think I went to school with one Latino girl in like elementary, but being able to go to school with people from different cultures and like actually like have those experiences, and also like racism hit different down here. It's very overt, whereas in Chicago, like I said, I wouldn't have been like, we had our own communities. Like here, everything is kind of like mixed up. So having those different like experiences and just getting to know myself better, and also it's not as like, there's not as much like violence down here, so I was able to like go out more and things like that.
I was gonna say, is that why you came here for high school? Because that exact reason, the violence. So like
my mom was not here for it.
Oh, okay. So your mom didn't like it. So is most of your family, did like all of your family come here?
Just my mom.
Just your mom.
Yeah.
So most of your family is still in Chicago?
Yeah, and then after my mom moved back to Chicago, she moved back recently, like now that we're all like older, all of her kids are a little bit older. She moved back to Chicago, and like my grandmother lives here, so she actually like created this like space where people had a place to come and visit, and then they enjoyed it down here and decided to move down here too. So
do you like here better or Chicago better?
I can't. I like them for different reasons. You gonna get me in trouble.
Right, I was gonna say, she's like, well, you trying to get me caught up.
She's trying to get me cussed out. Ooh, no, I can't. Yeah. I feel like Chicago is definitely prettier. Like, I feel like the food is better, the culture is a lot different. But I would say, like, in the South, like, it's nice to just, it's more black people here. Like, I don't know, it feels more.
It's interesting that you say there's more black people here, but you feel like you had more experience with other cultures here than Chicago.
Yeah.
That's an interesting statement.
Yeah, because I feel like in Chicago, the black people are all together. Where here, it's like everybody's like spread out. Like everybody's a little bit of everywhere. But, yeah, I don't know.
How often do you go back to Chicago?
At least once or twice a year. I have to.
I know you don't miss those Chicago winters.
No. When I realized that was optional, I was like, so I don't have to
live like this.
Who decided that we should do this?
Yes. My grandmother, so my grandmother's originally from North Carolina, moved to Maryland, and then just traveled a lot for work, has lived in a lot of different cities, and then most of my adult life, she lived in Chicago. She lived in Chicago for like 10 years, 15 years, and she just moved back home recently. She retired from work and moved back home, luckily right before COVID.
Yeah.
And that was something that she always said too, like, man, I thought the winters at home in DC were bad, but she was like, these Chicago winters, like, it's just nothing like it. Like, I love Chicago. It's one of my favorite cities. This is my first time in Dallas.
Yeah.
So I can't really make a comparison, but I really like Dallas also. It's funny though, because like one of my main thoughts about being in Dallas has just been like, man, it's a lot of black people. Like, it's black people everywhere.
And they're like blackity black.
Yes,
Like, it's
and
not
black
like,
as fuck.
it's no confusion.
Yes, they black as fuck. I love it though. Like, I love it. I've really enjoyed, you know, my time here in Dallas, and it's been very comfortable for me. I've lived in some places like where I had severe culture shock because
New York.
Yeah, like, so I'm from DC, as everybody knows. I was born and raised in DC, like in the city. Like not Maryland.
That's not a common experience. A lot of people are from other places.
Yes, like they claim DC, but they really be from PG County or they be from Mo County.
People be claiming Chicago and be from Evergreen Park. And you're like, ma'am.
Yes.
It's not the same.
Not the same. So yeah, like I'm actually from the city, and it's different now because the gentrification is like so intense there. But when I was growing up, I literally only had like a white friend. Yeah. Like one. And I was just like, she was the one white girl. You know, she was like the one white girl in like my whole entire school. Like, I just never knew that many white people. It just wasn't a lot of white people. Like, it was literally Chocolate City, like, you know, 99% black or whatever. And so when I left DC for college, New York was an adjustment for me because, first of all, when I moved to New York, that was kind of the first time that I sort of saw other kinds of people. Like, it does sound horrible to say, but that was the first time that I saw.
That's how I felt in Texas.
Yeah, like that was the first time that I saw other kind of people, like more white people, more Hispanic or Latino people, more Asian people. And that was also sort of my first time kind of coming into contact with black people that were not black Americans.
Yes,
also.
That threw me for a loop.
How did it throw you for a loop? It did for me too, but how did it throw you for a loop?
Because I feel like it was like I saw this girl, she looked black, but she was speaking Spanish, and I'm like, what is happening right now? And I feel like, and then when I asked her, like, you know, are you black? Da 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 da. It was like this, like, pushback, like, yes, like absolutely not, like I should have known better. And I'm like, but you look black to me, and I feel like phenotypically you look African. So I'm like, what is it? Like, you know, I don't know. And seeing like how those different cultures interacted with one another. Like the first time I went to New York was like 10 years ago, and some people wouldn't even tell you like what island they were from. Everybody just said they were Jamaican. Like, it was just a weird energy. Like, I wasn't sure like how to communicate with them. For the first time, that was the first time I ever felt like I didn't know how to communicate with other black people, but it's because they didn't identify themselves as black people. Yes, I totally agree. So that was my first time ever meeting somebody and being like, oh, you're black, and then being like, no, I'm not black, and me being like, but you're black. Right, like what? Like, and then be like, no, I'm not black, I'm Panamanian, or, you know, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. That was my first experience of that, and I was just like, I can't compute. Right, like, it does not compute. Like, I don't understand. Like, when I was in college, I was part of this friend group, and it was 6 of us, and I was the only black American girl in the group. It was 3 Dominican girls, 2 Haitian girls, and I was the only black American girl in the group. But like when we all first started hanging out, only 2 of the girls in the group was like not visibly black. Like, it was one girl in the group that kind of like had a sort of like stereotypical Spanish look, and it was another girl in the group that she's Dominican, and she basically looked white. Like, she's white girl. Everybody's call her white girl. But she was a fucking hick. Like, no offense. Like, I'm not saying that to be offensive. I don't know what else to call her. Like, in New York, like, that's the type of language, like, that's the type of language that they use. Like, they called her a hick. Like, she was a hick, like a literal, like a fresh off the boat DR type of girl. Like, she would forget words in English all the time. Like, her first language was Spanish. She preferred to speak Spanish, but she looked white. Like, she was a white girl. And then it was another Dominican girl that looked stereotypically Spanish. And then it was another Dominican girl that was black. And then it was 2 Haitian girls. And then me. And when we first started hanging out, I didn't really think anything of it, like me being the only black American girl in the group. But as time went on, and this is like not no shade, or I don't have no problem with none of the girls that was in the group, like nothing against them, but it's weird as when time goes on and people ask like, oh, where are y'all from?
this was not a question that I got really asked that often in DC. Hardly ever, never was I asked, where are you from? And once I went to New York, this became a thing of people being like, where are you from? And then the other girls in the group being like, oh, I'm Dominican or I'm Haitian. And then me just being like, I'm black. Like, I'm from DC. Like, I'm from DC. And then people being like, no, but like, where are you from?
Yeah.
I'm from DC.
Is this not enough?
No, but like, where are your parents from? DC? They're from DC? I don't. Okay, like, where are your grandparents from? North Carolina? I don't.
Because that's an assumption that everybody in New York is new.
Yes. Like, yeah, it's a weird thing, and it's a weird question. And for me, that was a culture shock of like not really understanding what people were asking me. Or
how to
having people
respond.
Or how to respond, yeah, or having people tell me like, you don't look Black American, like I don't believe that you're Black American, like, oh, you have to be Trini. Like, I've literally had people look me in my face and be like, I don't believe that you're Black American.
What does that mean? Like, what's different? Or like,
what does it mean?
It bothers me when it's after having a conversation with you. Like, if you look at me and say maybe I look like I'm from somewhere else, I can take that. But if you're like having a conversation, you're like, but you don't seem Black American. Like,
right. It's like, what does that really mean? Like, what are you really trying to say?
Yeah.
And especially when you're having this conversation with other Black people, and especially when you come from a place where like this is not considered a normal conversation to have, it's weird and it's insulting. It's like, so you trying to say that, Black Americans are ugly, dumb.
Or I just wonder, like, where have you been in the United States that you have not met a Black American, but you are a Black person and you hang out with other Black people?
In New York, it's really hard because, like,
Florida too.
Florida too. I
went
in Florida.
To school in Florida, yeah.
What school you went to?
FAM. Yeah, I did. I went to FAM and I went to Miami Art Institute.
Nice. I lived in Broward County.
Ooh.
Yes, I lived in Dania Beach, Florida. I lived in Pembroke Pines, and I also lived in Miami Gardens.
Them accents are wild.
For a while too, yeah. And so it's funny. I seen this meme that it was like New York Haitians, and it was like the nigga in like the suit with like the glasses and like the cut, and then it was like South Florida Haitians. And it was the big I was like, it's true, like, it's true.
They're not wrong.
Like, the Zoes in South Florida are nothing like the Zoes in New York. Like, culture really, all these things really make a difference. Like, all Black people really are not the same.
Yeah. Or seeing like Haitians through the lens of like being up in like a big like metropolitan city, or seeing Haitians like they go to the South. Like, I wondered, like, seeing how those things like really affect their, like, how they show up.
Yeah, so it was really weird for me moving to New York. It was like a severe culture shock because I never experienced that kind of thing before, of people like looking me in my face and be like, no, I don't believe you're a Black American. Like, you look Trini, I got a lot. And then a lot of times too, when people found out that I was from DC, a lot of people have asked me if I'm East African, if I'm Eritrean, if I'm Ethiopian, because there's like a large East African population. And then people literally being like disappointed when you be like,
because they feel like they can't relate to you for some reason.
You think that's what it is?
I do. I feel like it's like this unspoken like Black immigrant thing, where like I'll see people from like Antigua, Jamaica, like Barbados, they'll all hang together, but for some reason like it's like a disconnect when it comes to African Americans. As if we didn't have the same.
Do you think they feel like they're better than us?
I feel like they think they're more palatable than they are. So like they don't want to associate themselves
with
if
us.
They don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I dated a guy and that was weird.
What, he was
from Antigua, and his mom made a comment one day like, why don't you date a Black woman like me? And I was just like,
while you were standing there
in front of my whole face.
Wow.
I said, oh, okay, and we gotta go. Like, I just can't even have this conversation right now because I don't know how I'm gonna do it respectfully.
Yes. Oh man, that's so insulting. Like, and it's weird to me that people think that kind of shit is okay. Like, people really think it's fine to just disrespect us and like even right to our face. Like, to me, I feel insulted when people repeatedly ask me where I'm from. Like, one of the first episodes of the Black Americans that I did was with this girl named Melanie. Shout outs to Melanie. She's from Virginia. We did a program together, and so the icebreaker, I feel like I will literally never forget this. The icebreaker of the program was they went around and they had everybody say where they were from. And so people were like, oh, I'm from here, I'm from there. And I was just like, I'm from DC. And Melanie said the same thing. She was like, oh, I'm from Virginia. And they were like, well, but like, where are your families from? Like, where are your roots from? Like, we're trying to like get to everybody's roots or whatever. And I was just like,
Those are my roots.
Those are my roots. Like, I'm from DC, and my family's from North Carolina, from a plantation. Before that, we're descendants of American chattel slavery, like my shirt, DACS. We're descendants of American chattel slavery. And it's almost like people just don't even know how to deal with that. Like, the facilitator was just there, like, looking stuck. Like, oh, okay, moving on. And it's weird. It's really weird. It's like, we're definitely considered to be like the bottom. It's like niggas in general, like black people in general are considered to be the bottom. And then black Americans are considered to be like the bottom of the bottom. Like, we are supposed to be like at the very bottom, like bottom casted. And it's really weird how people position themselves opposite black Americans as a way to sort of
leverage themselves.
Yes. And like get their little foothold, especially in the United States. And historically, this is something that has been going on forever. Even if you like look back in time and you see like the ways in which long-term subscribers have heard me talk about this, like the ways that Irish and Italians became white, because when they first came over here, like the Anglo-Saxon fucking white, the Eastern European whites didn't like them either.
Or Jewish.
Or Jews too, yeah. Like when they first came over here, the way that they were able to become white was like, well, at least we're not like the slaves. Like, at least we're not like the black Americans. Like, at least we're not like them. We're closer to y'all than them. And so they were able to sort of work their way up and work their way towards whiteness. And this is something that I feel like is still happening. But now it happens with like everyone. It happens with more than just white people. Like, it happens with the Latinx people. It happens with the black immigrants. Like, everybody positions themselves opposite black Americans as a way to get leverage and sort of like move up this ladder. But at the same time, these will be the same exact people that also move into the black American communities and come into the black American communities because they're not welcome anywhere else. And then be like, well, no, like, we're just like you. Yeah. Like, we're downtrodden just like you. Like, we're discriminated against just like you. Like, we're the same as you. But at the same time, they think they're better than you. It's such a weird space. Like, it's a weird dichotomy. And like I said, that was sort of my first taste of that, my first experience of that when I moved to New York. And the next place I lived after New York, I did live in South Florida. And in South Florida, it was just like blatant, overt, like racism from the fucking white people, like Confederate flags everywhere, Confederate flags outside of gun shops, which is like really scary. This is a big problem in fucking Davie and in Dania Beach. It's just like Confederate flags everywhere. And also experiencing it really overtly from quote unquote fucking Latinx people that also don't like fucking niggas, especially the Cubans. And then also even experiencing it from the other black people, like especially the Central Americans and stuff like that, being like, no, I'm not like you. Like, I'm from Paraguay, I'm from Nicaragua, and they speak the language, Spanish. That's like the main language in Miami, especially. Yeah. Like, and they speak the language. So like they're still like they're all put over you.
And I wonder if it's like almost like a benefit to like trying to let it go, whereas like African Americans are like, no, this happened to us, this is very much a part of who we are, like, and we deserve this and this because of it. They're more like, it happened, y'all let us in the gate, now we're gonna just move forward. I feel like, I don't know, it's almost like they get like treated better because they're willing to just like let it go.
That's assimilation to me. Yeah, like they're more like other types of people are more willing to, again, this is all about like access, right? And like the white gaze. So I do think you have like other types of groups that are more willing to assimilate, or that have an idea in their mind of like assimilation is the key to survival. And you do have some black Americans that feel this way as well. Yeah. Like, not to say that they don't. Like, it's a lot of people that have the mindset of like, you know, just keep your head down, just try to blend in. Yeah, like try to get white people to like you. Try to be as respectable as possible. Try to keep it cute and, you know, put together. What does that even mean? You know, but I do think that like historically as a collective, black Americans have been very vocal. Yes. Very against assimilation. Very, no, we need our rights. Like we can't just assimilate. Like we need our rights. And I also think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of us have grown up previously in, it's weird to say like segregated but sort of like pockets.
Yeah.
Grown up in pockets of different places, and where it was nothing but Black Americans, and having to sort of fight for our rights, like. And especially when you're a Black American, like I said, you're sort of treated like the bottom of the barrel. And so it's kind of like, well, I'm not even going to fucking try to assimilate, because
it's no point.
It's no point. Like, it's not worth it. Like, I am who I am. Like, I'm Black. I'm a Black American. I'm a descendant of American chattel slavery. Like, I need mine. Like, I'm not even interested in assimilation. You need to just give me my reparations, and I can just like go on
and do my own
thing and go about my life and go about my business. And I think also, if you really study history and look back on history, like, a lot of Black American communities did thrive.
Because they didn't have a choice.
Because we didn't have a choice. Like, we had to do for self in a lot of ways. And the shit that destroyed our communities, it was not natural. Like, white people destroyed our communities. Like, they lynched people. They murdered people. They lit their bodies on fire. They lit our towns on fire. They lit our cities on fire. Like, white people just need to leave us alone. Like, if we could just get our reparations, I really feel like if we were able to, I did a video on reparations, and I really feel like if we were able to get our reparations and establish Black American infrastructure, I really feel like that's what we need, especially because, like, we've seen that it's possible for us to thrive. And the shit that sort of took our communities down, and the shit that has historically been taking our communities down, has basically been white people. It's basically been white intervention.
The entire time.
Like, they forcibly destroyed our communities, and then every time that we tried to, like, come back and build back, they just came and did it again in a different way. Be it flooding the communities with drugs. This is a real thing that happened.
Physically flooding the communities, like in New York.
Physically flooding the communities, like in New York. Physically flooding the communities, like in during Katrina, New Orleans. War on crime, war on drugs. Like, white intervention has historically been our problem. Like, they need to just give us our reparations and just leave us the fuck alone. It's really how I feel. And it's interesting because living in different places and seeing different things and different types of people and different types of communities, like, we can have our own communities too. Like, we can have our own communities too. We can have our own thing too. But I really do believe, like, we're really still seen as the bottom of the barrel, to the point where it's considered a problem if you even show pride in being a Black American, if you even show pride in your ethnicity, your culture. It's just like this knee-jerk reaction that people just want to, like, step all over us and, like, push us down. Like, it's interesting to me that, like, you are a hairstylist and you're also, like, an influencer, and you live in Dallas, you're from Chicago, you're doing your thing, but I'm sure you probably all the time get pushback just because you're a Black American, like, and just because you do hair, like, if people saying, like, you don't need to do hair, like, oh, you live in Dallas, like, you don't need to do hair, like, oh, all the niggas there, like, they don't want to work, da-da-da-da-da. It's just like, leave us alone. Leave us alone. Let us do our own thing. Like, it's very weird how just our whole existence bothers the fuck out of people.
Or not respecting being a hairstylist as, like, a career. Like, I'm proud of being a hairstylist. Like, the most ancient times you can think of, like,
yes,
we was late. We had our hair late.
You read my mind. Like, I was just about to say,
that's like an important part of our culture to me. So I'm proud to be a part of it. It's not something that I feel like I did because I didn't have a choice, or it's what I want to do. Or, like, having people have a hard time wrapping their mind around that.
And I feel like that's a part of our culture.
It's very much so a part of our culture.
Like
braids?
Yes,
like,
bitches doing hair is a part of our culture. Like, doing hair out the kitchen is a part of our culture. Like, people fixing plates and stuff, that's a part of our culture. Like, finding ways to make money and get it by any means necessary because we're systemically locked out of shit and locked out of opportunities. That's a part of our culture. And so even that, again, gets back to the idea of, like, who is this for? Like, why are you mad that somebody is a hairstylist? Like, why do you look down on that?
Yeah.
Why does that make you feel bad or make you feel like, oh, that's not a real job? What does that mean? Like, who is it for? Who are you thinking about? Who are you appealing to? Because this is something that people have always done. Like, when I was growing up, my aunt did my hair, my cousin did my hair. I never went to, like, no stranger to do my hair.
On a porch somewhere,
I didn't even want no stranger touching my hair. Like, my aunt and my cousin used to get mad if I tried to let somebody else do my hair.
That's, like, a spiritual thing, too.
Yes, like, don't let other people
like,
don't let other people touch your hair. Like,
or at school, like, no, they can't touch your hair. Don't take these ponytails down. You know, stuff like that.
I mean, you can even get into the superstition aspect of, like, you can't have two people working your hair because it's bad luck, it's a bad omen, or it means you're gonna die or one of them's gonna die. Which we were talking in Discord about, like, where did that stem from? And somebody said they believe that it stemmed from the fact that, you know, when you die, you have multiple people, like, work on your body to, like, prepare you, to, like, do your hair or, like, do your makeup and get you dressed, wash you off. And so they say that, like, having multiple people in your hair or getting you ready is almost like a preparation for death. So, like, don't do that. It's bad luck. So it's just, like, all this stuff, it's a part of our culture, and it stems back to certain things. And especially now with the internet and social media, like, why not, like, you know, do what you can with it? And people need to just get over it and, like, really have some respect for us and have some respect for our culture. Like, it's just an interesting thing to sort of see the ways in which our culture and the things that we do are, like, heavily weaponized.
Until a white person does it.
Until a white person does it, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
Because the white people doing braids on TikTok is fine. 3 million views. The white girls wearing weaves and wigs and pieces and lashes
and clip-ins
and green hair, Kylie Jenner, and long fingernails.
The long nails really threw me for a loop. And baby hair.
And baby hair.
When did that happen?
Like, I will never forget.
They used to wax off their edges. When did you start swooping them?
Like, when they started seeing it on social media and just having too much access. Like, having too much access. I don't know how it stops, honestly, because
social media created this plane where people feel like everything is just American. Like, that's it. Like, they're not going to look into it any further than that.
And I kind of feel like it's hard because you can't unring a bell. Like, once the milk is spilled, you can't unspill it. So it's hard to think, what do we do about that? That's the question that I've been thinking about a lot, because now there's just so much access. And it's so easy to erase the origins and just be like, it's an American thing. Like, I will never forget seeing one of them Kardashians. Might have been Kim. I don't follow them. I'm about to pass
out back here. I can't take you.
I don't follow them, so I don't know which one it was. But I remember one of them had posted something with, like, some long nails. And she had, like, drilled a hole in them and put a charm. And people being like, oh, these nail charms, they the new thing. Bro, baby. My mother's best friend, my Aunt Nell. She's not really my aunt, but she's my mother's best friend.
You know how to go,
she's my aunt in my mind. My Aunt Nell, I can remember in, like, the 90s and the early 2000s, like, that was her thing. Like, her nickname was Butterfly, and she was always with the nails out to here.
Yes.
With the gold butterfly charm on every fingernail. Like, that was the first, and she had a new set every week with different charms. They was long as fuck, and with the hole drilled in them with the different charms. And that's something I can remember. Like, that's not just something I've seen in photographs or anything like that. Like, that's something I could vividly remember, like, my Aunt Nell having these nails with these charms. And then seeing all of a sudden,
They everywhere.
And it's being treated as this new thing that was, like, started by white girls. When, again, previously, when the Black Americans was doing it, it was looked down upon.
Ghetto.
It was ghetto.
I love ghetto shit. I'm here for it.
I love ghetto shit. I'm ghetto. Like, like, I hate fucking Billie Eilish, bitch ass, for this exact reason. Because people act like everything she's doing
is brand new.
It's brand new, with the green hair and dressing like a member of them franchise boys with the all white Air Force Ones. And people acting like this some shit they've never seen before. And it's just like, this is not some new shit, but y'all don't want to treat Black Americans as our own culture, as our own ethnicity, with, like, our own shit. Y'all just want to say that all this stuff is, like, quote unquote, it's just American culture. It's just internet culture. It's just Gen Z culture. Like, oh, no cap, that's not Black American slang. That's just Gen Z. And it's hard. Like, I don't know how to put the genie back in the bottle, honestly, in terms of the internet and social media and how it's just opened up this access to everybody. Like, that's something that I've really been thinking about, but
I think there just needs to be respect.
Just the respect.
To be honest, like, I don't care. Like, I feel like if there was respect there, I feel like something I was talking about with my friend, because I have been meeting recently a lot of people who are from other places who are getting more in tune, or, like, accepting more, like, their minority status, like, not always trying to assimilate. And I feel like a part of that is just being able to say, like, as Black Americans, yes, we have our own things, but once you respect me for being different, then I can have a different relationship with you. If I feel like you don't respect me, it's going to be really hard for me to be open to, like, working with you. And I feel like that's like where the issue comes in, where, like, we're trying to talk about all this Pan-Africanism. Like, before we can work together, we have to have, like, mutual respect.
So you feel like it just needs to be, like, a cultural shift?
Very much so. Yeah, in general, like just give us our flowers and then we can move forward. I feel like there's like this like stagnant, like there's like this stagnant energy where it's just like they want like to work with us. They want us to like speak for them. They want us to like yell from mountaintops about their issues. But when it comes to ours, it's like silence. And I don't, or like only when it's cool you want to be involved. There just needs to be like a certain level of like true respect where we can like work together with like from our respective corners. It doesn't have to be like one melting pot where we no longer have any differences.
Yes. I think the Pan-Africanism at this point is outdated.
Yeah.
Like it was fine in the you know, Marcus Garvey and, you know, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even getting into the 90s. I think that was fine, like no disrespect. But I think we've reached a point now where Pan-Africanism is outdated. This idea of melting pot culture is outdated. And I agree that there needs to be respect on all the different ethnicities and the idea that we are different. I have a video called We're Different. Like, that we are different and that we need respect put on our ethnicity. It needs to stop being such a one-way street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, I feel like even when we were talking about earlier, when it comes to, like, our neighborhoods, it's never been a problem. Like, oh, you're from Dominican. Oh, you look black. Boom. Like, I know somebody who will braid your hair. Or, like, you can flat iron my hair. Like, there's always been, like, we embrace
Dominican
them.
blowouts.
Yes. Like, it's like we embrace them. Like, it just needs, but we embrace them for being who they are. Like, we look at their differences and be like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's different. But I feel like there's never been, like, a reciprocation of that. And that's where, like, the issue comes.
And I think that's because, like we were talking about earlier, I feel like Pan-Africanism and melting pot rhetoric is built on the notion still that Black Americans are at the bottom. Yeah. And so I agree. Like there just needs to be a total cultural shift. Until you need
something, then apparently we have white privilege.
Well, I feel like
that's confusing. I feel
like that's literally the definition of cultural appropriation. It's like put the culture on, take the culture off. Put the culture on, take the culture off. Put the culture on when it's something cool, take the culture off, and then be like, oh, y'all Black Americans have imperialism privilege, which is not true. Yeah. I hate when people say that because even though we live in the United States, we have never benefited from imperialism. Like even when there was a draft and Black Americans were forced to fight in wars, we would come back home to Jim Crow. Like we were not protected by the police.
Experimented on. Treated poorly.
We were not protected by the government. Like we have never benefited from American imperialism. That's like such a false statement to me. Yeah. And that's cultural appropriation to me. Like on, off, on, off, on, off. Like, no, we need to sort of stop with the Pan-Africanism ideology, melting pot, and then just sort of come to terms with the fact that we're different. And yes, there needs to be some mutual respect and understanding of the differences in our culture before we can move forward. Yeah. That's really how I feel. So are we done? Did we